Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're going to learn about how to use shadow in our color flats technique workflow. So with this one, the tools we're going to use are mainly the lasso tool. We're going to be using hard and soft edge brushes. We'll use hard and soft edged erasers. We'll mess with opacity control, or opacity, however you pronounce it. We'll be working on a layer specifically for shadow with its own blending mode. And if you stick around near to the end of the video and you want to go a little bit deeper in your assignment, I'm going to teach a little bit on what's called ambient occlusion, and that is completely optional. So let's get rid of that little fella, and let's take a look at this sphere right here. When adding value to something, there are a number of ways that you can do it. So we know that this is a rounded form and that it is going to have soft edges in it. We're going to have a hard edge around the outside of the sphere. And then as the form turns, we're going to get to progressively softer and softer edges. So let's say that you are going to paint some light in here. And let's get a light color. So I'm grabbing my white with just a hint of yellow. And I'm going to use a soft edged brush and just blap a huge hunk of color in here. Notice I've gone outside of the edge of the form. Well, using a soft edge brush, we can add value, and then using an eraser that is a hard edged tool, we can then carve it away like this. That's a very efficient and effective way at working. We can also use our knowledge of making selections by selecting outside of a form, just like so. If I click on the outside of the form and then trim by hitting delete, that way we can get rid of everything that we don't want. Now let's apply that to, say, like if we're going to be casting a shadow. I'm going to delete this layer and let's do it again, only this time let's use kind of a shadow color. A little bit about shadows. Shadows are cool, meaning you're going to fall in the blues and the violets. In general, a desaturated blue is going to be very helpful for you. But let's try this method of just blapping in a solid mass. And notice how bold and dark it is. Let's get some more gentle transitions in here. I'm actually going to take my opacity, however you pronounce it, and let's bump it down to about 30% and start to build up layers of value. And as we get closer and closer in towards where the sphere touches the ground, it's going to get very dark. And now let's shift to our hard-edged eraser and just carve away, like so. Now we can work with selections if we want to. We could select the sphere, select the outside of the sphere, and paint in the outside of the selection in order to even get the shadow, which you might find to be a little bit cooler. Watch this. Now look how we're painting outside of the selection. Slowly, gently build up value. Deselect. Now we've got our shadow shape. Well, that's one way we can do it. And then, like how would we apply shadow to these forms? Well, let's delete some layers that I've got cluttering up my screen here. And bear with me here. So I've got a shadow layer, and looking at the form as it is with the shadows on, you're going to notice that we have a total of about 3 different values on the figure. We've got the color flats, which are those desaturated midtones. We've got the light, like you learned from last time. And then we have the shadow. The shadow falls opposite of the light, and there's midtone between the shadow and the light. So the shadow is a slightly cooler color. It's a dark blue that is not all the way near the black, but in this dark area. And the shadow layer is a blending mode called multiply, just like we did with our contour lines. Multiply does what it sounds like it says. It multiplies the strength of the value. Even if I had a light gray, that light gray is going to be see-through for this gray underneath it. It's going to start to stack. So multiply is very powerful. And so you'll see that every time I add shadow, I'm going to have a very weak brush and gradually build up layers. So let's turn this off and let's add some value to this limb. I'm going to grab a grayish dark blue, And I'm going to set that to multiply blending mode. Let's call it shadow. And using a soft edged brush, I'm going to turn the opacity down to 20%. And let's use our selection tools and select from our color flats the entire forearm color here. I'm going to grab the hand as well. Remember to go back to your shadow layer, get a big, fat, soft-edged brush, and start to apply shadow near the areas of the forearm where it turns under and away from the light, like so. Now, how dark should you get it? Well, this is a little advanced, but I think I'll share it with you. This is called the half to black formula. Half to black means that wherever a midtone is, and so here's the midtone range of let's get the color picker up and make it a little more central. There we go. Wherever the midtone of a form is, we would find however far it goes to black and then go halfway there. That's the darkest that that form's going to get. So when I color sample this shadow that I've made, it should fall generally in this region down here of dark and light. Let's check. Boom, it sure does. If it starts to get darker than that, it will appear unnatural. So the same applies to brightness. All right, so let's look at how bright we get our forms. And this is for direct light on a form, okay? When you're doing your cartoons. Go about half to white. So if I sample here, is it going to go all the way up to white or somewhere in between the midtone and white? Let's check. Whoop, there it is, midtone and white. Now, how do you micromanage that? Well, you just get used to it through doing it a lot, okay? If you squint your eyes and you're like, oh man, one side looks super dark, okay? Then it'll just feel off. And that's one of the ways you can check your values. Now, shiny areas, like for example, there's gonna be some shine on this arm that is gonna break that rule. We'll get to that at the end when we learn about highlights. But in general, that's a good range of contrast for your image. And if you want to push it even further, we can do that at the end once we've already got all of our lights and shadows. And we call that doing it in post-production. Okay, so I've selected and added some shadow over here. Let's look at doing it to some other areas that are a little bit more complex because the forearm is basically a very simple cylinder. What do we do over here in areas with like fingers and all that? Well, I'm going to start using my lasso tool. So with the lasso tool, let's put some shadow, in this area. And I don't want it to get on the thumb at all. So I'm going to protect the edge of my thumb with my lasso tool and then just loop out here in the area where I want to put some shadow. Notice I really didn't care about the shirt because we could just select the flats and trim it out if we want to. But let's grab our shadow value, treat this forearm just as a cylinder coming at us, almost like a pop can. And I need to grab the correct value of blue that I had before. And now let's start to gently lay in some value and build up some transitions, okay? Now, this area where it spilled into the shirt, let's trim it. So I just deselected my image. Let's grab our color flats, click on the blue shirt. Now every pixel for the blue shirt is clicked. And now go back to your shadow layer that you're working on and just hit delete. Any of the painted shadows that spilled in there, there they are, they're gone. All that's there is with the forearm. Zoom out, check your work, turn the shadows on and off. If you feel you got good contrast, then keep going. Now for a little bit more detailed areas, let's do the underside of the thumb. This does get a little nitty gritty. I do work in mostly very broad strokes when I'm doing this, and I do the little touch-ups at the end. You'll see with ambient occlusion how you can get even tighter shadows, but I don't want the shadow to go any further than the outside of the thumb, and it's the underside of the thumb I'm worried about. I don't really care about the controller. We can just trim that out. So now we got my shadow. We got a big, fluffy, soft edge brush. Start to drop in some core, build up some layers, and then deselect. You can use your eraser to carve away in areas where you didn't want that shadow to land inside the hand. And we can then trim it from our flats layer. So I'm going to use the magic wand, select the controller. Now go back and click on the shadow layer and just hit delete. Now we've got a nice little shadow right there. And working in this way, we will add value to the rest of the form. So with that, at this point, I'm going to shift over to ambient occlusion. If that's as far as you want to go, then go ahead and end there. If you really want your work to look really cool and pop, then stick around. Ambient occlusion is a non-directional shadow. Basically, whenever you have creases or two things that touch, light gets trapped in there. And there's plenty of creases on this figure. Let's take a look at some areas where we could have what looks like ambient occlusion. Let's just look at it. Boop. That. Areas where things touch. So where the dude's arm is resting up against his belly, where we have creases that are showing up here. And those are a little darker than your normal shadows. Those break the rule with the half to black formula. Combine that with shadow. Okay. Let's see, AO off. So this was shadow before. If you combine it, you start getting some pretty cool values. And so some areas where I did ambient occlusion in the face would be here, the underside of the brow ridge, the folds of the eyes. This is like a higher detail type work. And so let's start doing. I'm going to shut my layers off and let's add AO. So make a brand new layer. Just call it AO. And remember to, if you have any other active layers, make sure you lock them so you don't accidentally, brush on top of it. So bear with me here. I just got duplicates of all these layers. Where do you put them? Well, I'm working progressively up. We've got our flats first, light, then shadow, and then AO goes on top of shadow. And then you have your line art at the very top of your layer order. Okay. All you do is you use your lasso tool and you use a black brush, solid black. And what we do is we find creases and folds. So there's a nice little crease here with the brow ridge, and it goes over the eye. And then who cares about what's over here? And then I want to get this little crease here on the edge. All right. And you get a big solid black brush, turn the strength of the brush way down, maybe like 10 or 20%, because black is very powerful, and set the blending mode to multiply. And then start to build up some value in those areas. Now, one thing I want you to know is I'm not putting the brush directly into my selection. I'm actually putting the brush outside of the selection and letting just the edges of the brush touch the surface. Okay, and now deselect. And you see some of my shadow went all over the nose over here. Grab an eraser, hard edge or soft edge, it's up to you. I'm going to use a soft edge and feather it out and just erase the edge of that shadow. If it's a little bit too heavy, take your eraser, turn the strength of the eraser down to like 20% and just take a little bit out. It's entirely up to you. Let's do a few more creases. Let's do the part that's in between the nostril and the cheek. So what you do is with the lasso, protect the edge you want to have the shadows start at. Then all this other space doesn't matter. And then we need to protect the edge on this area of the nose. And now build up, just using the edge of your tool so that it starts to get this nice little shadow crease area. And then erase your edges where you spilled in. All right, let's do the crease underneath the chin. So I'm going to protect this edge of the chin using my lasso tool. Loop out over here because that's not important. And you see I didn't get a good edge, so I need to hold down Shift and add to my selection here. Now I've got a good cleanly defined edge along that chin, and then add some value. Doesn't look like much yet. Start to bring it up. It's going to fade out and then get tighter and bolder as we get closer to the middle. And then deselect, and if we need to sculpt the shape of our shadow, then so be it. The part where the headphones come into contact with the body, that would be a contact shadow underneath. So protect that edge, loop out, drop a shadow, build it up. I'm going to take mine up to about 30%, deselect, and if you need to trim, go ahead. I'm just going to kind of keep doing this And so you're free to watch, but you protect an edge and add value to where you get a crease. We got a wrinkle right here, so protect the edge of the wrinkle, loop it out, start to get some value in that crease area. If you want to see an example of real life AO anywhere you're at, then just look at where the wall meets the ceiling. No matter how much light you have there, you're going to have a dark space in the corner. That's because light gets trapped in those areas. Let's erase out. Let's see here. All right, here's a good one where the sleeve is coming into contact with the forearm, and then loop out. Need to protect this edge a little better, so I'm adding to the selection, and we're going to get very thin edge shadow, thicker right here, and then it's going to get thinner. So where the shirt is raised, that's going to be the boldest shadow. And deselect. All right, so the underside, we've got the arm itself, and then we got these flabby wrinkles here. Let's have some fun with it. So protect the edge with your lasso. Loop out in this area where we're going to have the shadow, and then clean up your edge with your lasso. And then now, let's add value. Notice how it becomes darker and darker as it gets closer to the contact point. And I've got to sculpt a little bit because I bled into some areas where I didn't want any values. Now let's get some of the creases with these flabby bits. And we take away some selection here. Having a little trouble. Maybe zooming in might help a little better. There we go. Nice little ridge right there. Anywhere you've got creases or contact, you got this bulge flab right here. So we're going to have some contact between the back, because that form is in front. And that is non-directional lighting, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when we turn off all of our flats and everything, and even our line art, notice how it literally looks like we've got areas that are raising up off the page. That's one of the ways that you can check your ambient occlusion to see if A, you even have enough of it, and then B, if you need to make it darker, if it's going the right direction. But watch what happens if we get rid of our flats and just put in our light. See, by being mindful of the shadow shapes and where they turn. Then we got our shadow and our AO. And then we've got our flats as well. Even without the contour lines, it's holding together. And we could bring this up to a full-blown painting illustration without the lines. You just have to clean up our shadow shapes and such. But we're not going to do that. But there is a ton of areas where we can do AO. Wrinkles, all these areas in the body. I'm going to go and work on that ahead. And then we're going to come back and look at colorization, and highlights later. How do you change the colors if you want your shadows to be cooler or warmer? How do you shift the colors if you want the shorts to change color? How do you change your light and all that stuff? And long story short, finally, if you got any questions in class, please feel free to reach out, and I look forward to seeing you guys. So take care, everybody, and have some fun painting.